many of the older missiles that were designed in the Vietnam era, yes, they did. They went for the hottest thing they could see, and normally it was the tailpipe of the airplane, and they did go straight for the engine. Now, modern missiles, the third and fourth generation missiles, actually track on the exhaust plume that the engines put out. They moved it to a different part of the spectrum. A good example is the DHL airplane that was shot down departing Baghdad a few years ago. The missile impacted the wing of the airplane outboard of the engine and started a fuel fire, burned the hydraulic systems, and they lost all control of the airplane. So no, modern missiles don't necessarily hit the engine of the airplane. One of the things you have to consider when you're talking about patrolling an area where a MANPAD may be fired is how much area you have to patrol. On the typical airport, an airplane coming in to land comes within the range of a MANPAD missile about 25 to 30 miles away from the airport. And the same thing departing the airport. So if you look at the ground area that you would have to patrol to cover an airport, it's somewhere in excess of 300 square miles. And if you put a person on each square mile, you would need over 300 people constantly to patrol for each runway you have at that airport. So it's not really a practical solution to the problem. MANPADS typically fly about Mach 2. And the time of flight, from the time they're launched out of the tube till they impact the airplane, is somewhere between 2 to 6 seconds. So in the time that it would take you to detect that you have been fired on by a MANPAD and you were the target of the MANPAD, and you put control inputs in to try to turn away from the airplane, you've just been hit most of the time. In some cases, if it's fired from a very long distance away, you may be able to detect it and you may be able to start some kind of evasive maneuvering, but the missile is tracking on your airplane, and many times it'll just follow you until it impacts you. There's really a couple of ways a MANPAD attacks an airplane. The MANPAD itself has a very small warhead. It's about the size of a hand grenade, typically 2 to 4 pounds of high explosive material. But the missile itself weighs about 40 pounds and is traveling at Mach 2. So you have the kinetic effect of a 40-pound projectile striking the airplane structure at twice the speed of sound. It rips through the structure of the airplane, it breaks hydraulic lines, it breaks fuel lines, it starts fires. And then there's a contact fuse that when the warhead hits the airplane, it actually explodes, and that contributes also to the fires and to the damage done to the airplane. But it doesn't necessarily have to have the warhead cook off to bring down an airplane. Just the 40-pound projectile hitting the airplane at twice the speed of sound can do enough damage to an airplane to bring it down.